Half-Life 2 is an enjoyable sci-fi shooter 1 minute, the next, without warning, it turns into a waking nightmare. We Don't Go To Ravenholm, the game's most infamous chapter, is a stroke of genius, with its foreboding atmosphere and expert design combining to create something quite special. So let's take a closer look at Ravenholm's black magic. From the off, it's clear something has gone very wrong with the town. All of Half-Life 2's levels prior took place during the day, with environments often bathed in sunlight. Now it's night, and this transition marks a disconcerting tonal shift from sci-fi action to the macabre. Oppression has been a key theme in the game up to this point thanks to the combined subjugation of humanity, but in Ravenholm, oppression comes not from the Combine, but from its sights, its sounds and its atmosphere. Dead bodies litter the opening area, as do headcrab shells used to break the town's resistance, and it will likely quickly become very clear that where you previously fought against oppression, here your only choice is to escape it. Before you can really set about doing that, however, you have some learning to do. Immediately before visiting the doomed town, you are given the gravity gun, and you're able to test it out by indulging in a lovely game of catch with a hulking robot named Dog. The first half of Ravenholm especially is essentially an extension of this tutorial, and a very clever one at that. There are 2 examples of zombies which have been cut in half, a pair of legs hanging from a tree outside and one stuck to the wall by a saw blade inside, and given the room is full of more saw blades, Valve is hoping you'll put 2 and 2 together and begin using them, or the explosive canisters also available, on the first pack of zombies which approach. It seems as obvious a clue as could be given, but you must remember that at the time of Half-Life 2's release, its physics system was revolutionary. What seems like a no-brainer now was a staggering realization back in 2004, and so Valve hinting at how to use the gravity gun most effectively was an absolute must. Beginning to explore the town proper, you hear a strange voice in the distance.
For it was said, they had become like these peculiar demons which dwell in matter, but in whom no light may be found.
Having already guided you towards how to make the most of the gravity gun, Valve ups the ante with the introduction of traps. Notice this first spinning blade is turned on, no doubt a deliberate choice. If it wasn't whirring away, you might walk past it, not realising it could be used to your advantage, but because it is, and because a gang of zombies arrive on the scene to harass you, you'll hopefully realise it can. You come across 2 more in quick succession soon after as well, and they're both turned off, Valve again hoping you'll join the dots. These spinning traps, the cars you can later drop on enemies, the gravity gun, they all add a wonderful sense of kineticism to combat, which at the time you couldn't get anywhere else. What you might also notice during Ravenholm's first half is that there is very little, if any, ammunition to be found. The town is a playground designed to show off Half-Life 2's physics system, but the game is at its core an FPS, and so there was always a risk some would simply shoot their way from beginning to end and learn nothing. Limiting resources is a smart way of preventing that. You're practically forced to use the gravity gun over and over again, and take advantage of the various traps as often as you can, with the repetition of both driving home the importance of using your environment as a weapon, a skill you will need to put into practice throughout the rest of the game. Valve does their utmost to put you in a weapons-free mindset. After more fun with traps, explosives and the like, you're finally able to put a face to the voice heard earlier.
But who is this? Another life to save? I'll keep my eye on you. More than that, I cannot promise.
Father Grigori is a fantastic character voiced brilliantly by Jim French, who, as it happens, is also the voice of Bill in Left 4 Dead. We'll talk more about him a little later, but I do want to quickly touch on Ravenholm's audio, or lack of it, here, as it's a big reason why the level is so unsettling. There is no music other than brief tracks bookending each side of the terror you witness in between, with all sounds being diegetic in nature. That is, they are sounds that are heard in-world by Gordon Freeman, as opposed to a soundtrack which only you, the player, would be able to hear. Grigori chatters away in the background constantly too, and if you listen closely, you can hear the soon-to-be introduced new types of zombie long before you encounter them. It's often said that horror is at its best when much is left to the audience's imaginations, and in that regard, particularly during Ravenholm's early stages, Valve does a terrific job of doing just that. I haven't even mentioned the noises made by your plain old vanilla zombies yet either. While you will get used to their constant presence at some point due to how many of them you encounter, I don't think I'll personally ever get used to their moans and groans. That's because they have a disturbing secret. Play them backwards and you can hear the person trapped inside the monster still clinging to the last of their humanity, begging for help. Father Gregory throwing a shotgun over to you marks Ravenholm's halfway point, and even your introduction to this new weapon has been tutorialised. It's handed to you in very specific circumstances. Fast zombies swarm the rooftop, quite a small space for you to defend, and that pushes you in the direction of using it in close quarters. You'll probably already understand that a shotgun works best at close range, but nonetheless, the way the encounter is set up ensures that's the case for everyone, whether they're FPS veterans or totally new to the genre. Drain pipes also give you audio clues so you know exactly where your foe is coming from, and the zombies themselves are easy targets while climbing them, giving you the chance to score a few fairly painless kills. I absolutely love it when developers integrate new weapons or mechanics into their game in a thoughtful manner, rather than simply chucking them in here and there and then expecting you to do the heavy lifting, figuring out their strengths and weaknesses. It's parts like this that also show how much of a trendsetter Valve was, as there are a ton of examples of later games doing the same. A situation which is strikingly similar is one featured in BioShock. You enter an area and pick up a shotgun, the lights dim to decrease the space available to you, and splicers then rush you from the darkness, necessitating the use of audio cues during forced close-range combat. It honestly wouldn't surprise me if Irrational Games, and indeed many other developers, looked at Half-Life 2 and Valve's stellar work when figuring out how to teach you the basics. By this point, you should be feeling fairly confident about using Half-Life 2's physics and traps to thwart your enemy, and you also have a new, very powerful weapon to play with. With that being the case, it's here Valve decides to up the ante. As Father Gregory says, you're definitely in the wrong part of town.
How came you here, brother? This is the wrong side of town for you. Did I not tell you to seek the church? Mend your ways before it is too late.
You're introduced to fast zombies during the shotgun tutorial and come across your first poison zombie a minute or two later. Headcrabs and zombies have been a problem every now and then, but by this point they've lost a good deal of their ability to scare. They've become familiar, and so these frightening new threats help keep things fresh. Visually, their ghastly appearances are also a real step up from the zombies you've encountered prior, and they necessitate a change in tactics. Suddenly, zombies present a real and genuine challenge again. Those encountered up until this point could cause issues if you really weren't paying attention, but it was unlikely. Tactics weren't altogether necessary either, as you could generally stand your ground and fight, safe in the knowledge that if you were overwhelmed, the damage penalty wouldn't be too severe. Now you have to be much more on your toes. Poison zombies and the black headcrabs they're covered in require far less aggressive tactics. It's in your interest to back off so as to not be brought down, albeit temporarily, to a single point of health. Fast zombies require the opposite. They're too quick to run away from, and you risk being surrounded if you let too many of them get too close, so the best thing to do is to move forward and take them out as quickly as possible. This combination of fast, regular and poison zombies creates a wonderful mix between short, medium and long-range tactics. You have to learn which is appropriate to use and when in order to survive confrontations relatively unscathed. It can be a real assault on the senses at times too, as you desperately try to take out incoming zombies without being cornered, all the while trying to keep poison zombies and the black headcrabs they throw at arm's length. And then, just as you think you've escaped, fast zombies come bounding straight at you from across the rooftops. The constantly changing pace of combat depending on the mix of zombies encountered means Ravenholm continues to feel fresh and as dangerous as ever, even as it nears its climax. The town and its inhabitants may start to lose some of their impact as they become more familiar, but the introduction of the new zombies does so much to ensure it remains just as terrifying as it was when you first entered it. Also, I know all that sounds like a lot, but it is worth noting that once you get your hands on the shotgun, Valve does increase the amount of ammo pickups available to you significantly. Battling hordes of regular zombies and headcrabs mostly using the environment was a fair challenge. Doing similar with so much more to deal with would not be. During Ravenholm's second half, you're still given plenty of opportunities to use your initiative, but the use of weapons becomes a far more viable strategy as well. Eventually, after mowing down what seems like an endless stream of zombies of all shapes and sizes, you'll cross paths with Father Grigori again. There's one more rooftop defense sequence to get through while waiting for a moving platform to arrive, after which you finally make his acquaintance properly.
You are to be commended for avoiding my traps. The work of a man who once had too much time on his hands and now finds time for nothing but the work of salvation. I suspect you have little wish to remain in Ravenholm, so I will show you to the mines. As for me, a shepherd must tend to his flock, especially when they have grown unruly.
As mentioned earlier, Grigori is a brilliant character, and Ravenholm would be so much less memorable without his presence. You see precisely 0 Combine soldiers while exploring the town, and everyone else has been turned into zombies. Your deranged tour guide of sorts is the only human you meet. He's about as perfect a horror character as you could ask for. A man teetering on the edge of insanity, having witnessed the town's downfall, he heightens the horror atmosphere but also adds an extra splash of humanity to proceedings. He's clearly been deeply affected by what has happened. Grigori refers to the zombies as his flock and he their shepherd, and that idea of him being a shepherd works well within the context of the chapter itself, as he very much shepherds you through the level. He also acts as a mirror for your increasing confidence in your own ability the further you progress. Grigori likewise becomes more confident in you as well. He is the human connection in an environment that otherwise seems positively inhuman, but equally he's never lucid enough that he offers any real and lasting respite. You also team up with Grigori for Ravenholm's final stretch, and it's here Valve brings everything together for one of Half-Life 2's most unforgettable sequences. By this point, the transition from gravity gun tutorial back to first-person shooter with added gravity gun is complete, and the finale begins with you being forced to take down zombies using more traditional means. After that, the encounter's scope widens as you enter a graveyard teeming with zombies. Here, at the chapter's very end, Half-Life 2 does its best to remind you that from this point onwards, there are a world of combat options available to you. Guns can be used, barrels can be shot, and objects can be picked up and fired using the gravity gun. Valve doesn't explicitly tell you which tactic to use, and instead lets you find your own feat, ensuring one last time that you are fully prepared for the rest of the game. Is it the most subtle of sections? Not particularly, especially considering the zombies in a cemetery cliché, but I think that's kind of the point in all honesty. This is not a section designed to teach you things like those towards the start of the chapter were. Instead, it's all about power being handed back to you after you've been forced to explore such oppressive surroundings for so long. It puts you back on the front foot. The majority of enemies here are regular zombies, and there are a million ways to take them down, which means by the time you reach the chapter's conclusion and leave Grigori for good, you feel emboldened to take on anything and everything Half-Life 2 has to offer. Arriving at the other end of the cemetery, Grigori sends you on your way while he stays behind to tackle the horde. His fate is left ambiguous, but during the short time you spend with him, he certainly leaves a lasting impression, and I'd love to see him make a return at some point, although I'd say the odds of that happening are about as close to 0 as you can get.
Farewell, brother. I fear I deliver you to a darker place. May the light of lights illuminate your path. Look to your own salvation.
After all these years and countless playthroughs, Ravenholm is still just as effective as it was when Half-Life 2 first hit store shelves back in 2004, and in my view it remains one of the best FPS levels ever made. Valve's ingenuity in the way they teach you new mechanics and encourage experimentation is incredible, and that, combined with the sharp tonal shift and unnerving atmosphere, makes for a level that is unique in every sense of the word. Half-Life 2's graphics might not seem particularly impressive nowadays, and its physics system has long since been superseded, but none of that matters once you take your first tentative steps out into the town of Ravenholm. It is a horror experience of the highest order I believe every gamer should play. Thanks for watching the video, boys, girls and crowbar-wielding theoretical physicists. If you had a blast, do consider liking, subscribing and sharing your thoughts, and hopefully I'll see you all again soon.